Okay, so we are live. We can begin.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar today. At the onset, let me thank ESAR for such a wonderful education opportunity. And I thank DocMode for providing this platform and Zydus for supporting this education activity. Today, we want to address a new dimension to the accreditation processes that we are already conducting, and that is a possibility of doing a virtual audit. Today with me is the president of FEQH. FEQH is a partner with ESAR for the accreditation process, Mr. Gadgil, who has a 45 years experience of auditing, accreditation, and ISO related activity. ESAR has joined with FEQH to write up the standards and conduct the auditing process. He has tremendous experience in healthcare audit. He was a convener of the Mumbai chapter of Quality Council of India and has extensive healthcare auditing experience. During our question and answer session, we have also invited Dr. Datar, who is a part of FEQH. He has a background of industrial and occupational medicine, and he is an ISO consultant, as well as he has extensive experience of auditing IVF centers across this country. And let us start with the presentation first. Can I have the presentation, please? This is not my presentation. Yes.
So you can click on it once and you'll have control, sir.
Okay. It's not happening.
1 second, sir.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So to start with, what I would like to do is to quickly give you an overview of this process of accreditation. Most of you are aware of what it is. So when you accredit a center, what it says is your center's quality management system is up to the mark, and it's kind of a validation of your processes. As you are all aware of, our ultimate goal is to provide quality treatment and deliver consistent results of our patients. And this can be only achieved by implementing quality policies. And accreditation is the final culmination and certification of implementation and successful implementation of your policies. So ESAR accreditation process is a new process which started in 2016-17. We tied up with FEQH, which is a NGO working in the sphere of healthcare quality management systems. And we wrote up these standards, which are based on ISO principles. And it also covers the recommendation made by ICMR. Very important part of this whole process is the auditors which are involved in this process are not ESAR members. They are independent professional auditors, and a lot of them have medical backgrounds. So this is very important, and it's very different from the general ISO audit, which doesn't have much to do with what we do in IVF clinics. And now it is possible for our members to have only one audit, which will do the ESAR certification as well as ISO 9001-2015, if you desire to do so. So what is different and how we are different from ISO? We are specifically designed for IVF sectors. We do cover all aspects of IVF clinics, such as embryology lab. Even we are looking into sterilization, emergency procedures, anesthesia record, consents, etc. And as I said, we have medical professionals in the auditing team. So this makes it very different than a standard ISO audit, which may be done by somebody who has always audited engineering companies or other industries. So currently, we have finished auditing and certifying 64 centers, and 62 centers are in process of the certification. And following is the distribution of these centers. So the southern and the western India has a maximum number of clinics who are certified, and followed by the rest of India. So I hope that most of you will now enroll into this program and get your centers certified and accredited by ESA. Many times when we talk about this, we don't have too many centers who are certified. So what are really the barriers which prevent centers from acquiring this process of accreditation? Many of the centers feel that it's a lot of work and we are very, very busy. There's a question, while doing and putting so much of effort into this, will it have any benefit for me? A lot of people say that my staff is not trained. People are concerned about confidentiality. So I'll try and address some of these issues in the following few minutes. So people say we are very, very busy. Yes, I understand that when you go through this process of certification and auditing, you need to commit time. Every one member of the clinic will need to commit some time to this. But what happens is it basically defines responsibility. It reduces duplication of work and thus eventually saves time. And the systems which are created will save time in the processes that you perform. It also helps in preventing accident and lapses on the part of the staff. This is a very big boon to the clinics. The biggest question is, will it benefit me in any way? What I would say is the audit process is based on documentation. So when you create all the documents, all of your licenses, permissions, staff qualification, health checks, everything comes in one place. This becomes very handy in many other situations. You write up quality policies, SOPs. So this basically brings about uniformity in the performance of your staff, reduces miscommunication because everybody knows their responsibility. It's also important when you have a new person coming into the clinic as a new member of your team. And it helps to investigate untoward incidences very, very easily because everybody is following a same process. The process will make sure that your maintenance calibration is done properly in time. And what that translates directly is better outcome and better results in your IVF treatments. Your ordering stock management becomes streamlined. And I think the most important that all of us should understand is when you go through this audit, when some third party is coming into your clinics for inspection, it actually prepares you, your clinic, for the future, which is going to be the inspection by the Clinical Establishment Act, or maybe when ICMR comes in with the law, your clinics will be ready for these inspection. And because take my word, most of the clinics and staff will panic and they're very scared when somebody is going to come and inspect. And this should not happen when ICMR or when the government authorities come in. So it's very good to have a experience of being audited, inspected, and checked by a third party to all of your team members. And I think that's going to be very important in the times to come. And soon we'll be introducing a new concept of virtual audit. Mr. Gadgil will give you more details of it because that's going to be a necessity in the current time. We will have virtual training session. The auditors may not need to travel all the time. Your certification process will become fast and it will save, of course, money for traveling. So how do you get accredited? So you need to contact ESAR office and get enrolled by paying a fees. You will receive a startup kit with soft and printed copy of the standard and manual and pre-audit report formats and checklists. You will have a counseling session with FEQH office, which will explain you in detail the procedures and how to create these records and how to write things up. It can be done on Skype. So after that, you are supposed to keep the records, and then when you're ready, you inform FEQH, and then they will make sure that the auditor will come to you and you will go through the audit. So the validity of this accreditation is for 3 years. And after 18 months, there will be a surveillance audit, which is an intermediate audit. And after that, you will receive a nice certificate, which you can hang, which says a lot about quality in your hospital. Thank you. I now invite Mr. Gadgil to share his views on this process.
Thank you, Dr. Padgaonkar. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Please
Okay.
continue.
Thank you, Dr. Padgaonkar. Thanks for nice words. Some changes. The audit may not happen now by physical visits. It could happen virtual. That what we are discussing, going to discuss. So new era post COVID. I think let's come out better, faster, and probably far superior. That's what is expected out of India post-COVID, that it is expecting like Japan. Post the nuclear attack, Japan came out completely different country from a not like to the most favored nation kind of thing. So everybody feels that India is going to be a country of opportunities. With that note, we start the presentation on talk about ASIC 2016. Accreditation standard for IVF clinics. This was actually, there are more than 1,000, probably 1,200 if I'm not wrong, IVF clinics across the country. IVF clinic is a very peculiar positioned thing that it's not a hospital, but it has a OT. It has a lot of invasive procedures. It has a lot of laboratory procedures. And so a unit which is so different cannot have a nursing home standard. And that's the reason why many doctors felt that IVF should have its own standard. And that's how ISAR made their own standard. I think ISAR started this process somewhere in 2014. And they were doing their own audits. But the question of credibility came in. But the standard is ISAR, the auditors are ISAR, everything is of ISAR, the certificate is of ISAR. So where is the question, where is the credibility to this issue? And that's the reason why ISAR joined hands with FEQH. And the first audit happened in November 2016. We are lucky to have Dr. Datar with us today, who did the first audit. And after that, we have done about 64. I know it's not a very impressive number, but I think we'll catch up soon. Maybe the 64, 62, which are balanced. I think by 2020, we'll finish that also. I look forward for many more to come. The standard, which is in 2016, published in 16, will be slightly changed because the auditing process is changed, the registration process is changed. So in about a week's time, we'll come out with a new standard ASIC 2020, a web version of it. And some portion of the presentation of Dr. Padgaonkar would slightly change. Nevertheless, the heart of the standard is not going to be different. So soon we'll have a new standard. Okay, now, why should we go in for ASIC? What are the advantages? That's a key question. When I'm spending some money, why do I spend that money? So one is the first foremost is gains confidence in society's mind. People today have a lot of options. And if they have to choose, one of the criteria is the certification. The second criteria is their own experience. Now, the process of certification, the entire staff, the entire infrastructure, everything is changed, everything is completely revamped. That people's complete experience changes between the certified and non-certified hospital or the IVF clinic. So people definitely have a better confidence in the certified IVF clinics. Prepares to face eventualities. I know two instances, at least feedback where I got it. One was from a doctor somewhere in Delhi, I think. We had a fire in his clinic. He told us that we were doing our mock drills. We were completely ready. Everybody knew how to deal with the situation. No chaos. We could easily mobilize patients and know without much loss of valuables, we could come out clean from the incidents. Same thing happened with another unit. I won't name which city, but they had a IT raid. The doctor told me that whatever papers were required, we could give them so fast that the IT officers were really impressed by the way that we were organized. And he said that this we got organized because of the certification. So this shows that any eventualities, definitely you will prepare yourself. Medical legal compliance, yes, one of the very important or fearful factor for the doctors in current scenario. So the formats, the various forms, the SOPs, everything is laid down, is vetted through medical legal angle. And that's the reason why whatever is the outcome conforms to the medical legal requirements. Get staff's cooperation, very important. Whenever you want to implement something on your own, people have concerns. They don't cooperate. Normally the staff and the management is on the opposite side of the table. This is precisely what happens in India also. Peacetime, Maharashtra fights with Karnataka, Karnataka fights with Telangana, Telangana fights with Kerala for some issues or the other. The moment Pakistan attacks, we forget Maharashtrian, Karnataka, Telugu, we become Indians. And Pakistan is our enemy. Same thing happens when you want to go in for ASIC, I become Pakistan. You become united together. When you are united, the best things come out. You look at our Indian team. When Indian team started playing as India, Team India, we started winning the matches. I think it happened post, in the Ganguly's time. So making a team, I think accreditation is one of the best methodology, the simple methodology. The standard is a very simple, in simple language, easy to understand, can be implemented without external help. And I don't think you will have difficulties. Even if you have any difficulties, we are always sitting there in the office and 24/7, we are open to assist you. When you want to change, some new laws are going to be required. We know all of us today, today's current law is that hand wash, current law is social distancing, current wash is face mask. So similarly, when you want to go in for ASIC, when you want to go in for any standard, there are some norms that you have to understand. So first one is undocumented activities will not be considered done. So make sure that anything that you do has to be documented. Now, many people have fear that document means a lot of notebooks, registers, I'll need 40 registers, nothing of that kind is required. We'll show you a simple method of documentation. Just probably a few words are good enough for documentation. So we'll remove that fear of documentation from your mind. All the formats need to be completely filled in. No gaps. We see many times the consent form, only the patient signature is there. Not going to be acceptable. Any fill in, any gap, either fill in not applicable or put a dash. But form or formats have to be completely filled in. Same thing is documentation needs to be on real-time basis. People consider documentation, oh, I'll do it in the evening. Oh, we do it on Saturday. Oh, this particular IPD register, we do it once in a month. Not going to be acceptable. Any documentation has to be on real time. So the moment the activity gets completed, only when it is documented. Please drive these 3 messages, 3 laws in your people's mind and also abide by yourself. The structure of the standard ASIC, Now, any organization, be it IVF clinic, be a hospital, be a industry, be a IT company, anything, has got 5 basic resources called as 5M: man, machine, method, material, and money. These are called as 5M. Of course, when I say man, woman included, of course, in woman also there is a man, so let's not discuss further. But then man, machine, method, material, and money. So the standard deals with each and every ingredient, and there are norms for each and every ingredient: man, machine, method, material, money. And that's how the standard is designed. It also adds some specific requirements for IVF clinics, because we do understand IVF clinic is different. There is a different dimension. There are a lot of hopes, a lot of cultural issues involved into IVF clinic. So those things have been also put in the standard, and we have tried to make the standard as a all complete single document. The standard is prescriptive and not descriptive. I'll explain. The descriptive means, like ISO, they say that the organization should be prepared for risk arising out of fire. Now you can keep a bucket of water and say, this is my risk against the fire. Or you can have a elaborate firefighting system and say, this is my preparedness. There is no standardization. So what we have done is we have prescribed. That means we say, the ASIC says that the organization should have a fire NOC. It should have a fire Form B if it's applicable. Of course, fire NOC and Form B requirements change from state to state. So whatever is applicable in a particular state will be seen. There should be fire extinguishers. There should be fire escape route marked on the ground, or preferably on the ground, like what you see in the aircraft. There should be fire exit route available, so on and so forth. So we have also mentioned that per how many square feet per 1 kg of fire extinguisher is required. So it's very specific requirements and not kind of generalized. So you don't need to think, oh, this is a clause, now how do I implement that? You just don't worry about it. Implement what is mentioned in simple English. There are 10 annexures in the standard: the audit fee, the list of personnel, OT requirement, list of files, registers, notebooks. Try and make everything into one piece of document. You know, many times what happens is people have different, one for the certifying body, the other one for regular working of the organization. Please don't have. Merge everything into one. It's like, you know, a doctor recommended a diet to a person, a diabetic diet. And then after the whole thing was over, the patient asked, do I take it before meal or after meal? So don't ask like this. This is the way you should maintain your organization. So please ensure that everything is brought into this platform so that it becomes easier for you, as I said, to prepare for emergencies, prepare for eventualities. Is the best way, best platform you can ever get. The list of mandatory permissions, list of equipments, improvements made, very important, because we do a lot of changes, we do a lot of improvements, but we don't document it, we don't remember which was done when. It's important that you document your successes also. It's not necessary that your failures should be only documented. Successes also you should document and celebrate from time to time. List of consent forms, list of SOPs, basic SOPs. Now, these are the 7 basic SOPs that are required in IVF clinic. You can have more than this, but you can't have lesser than this. What we have done is many doctors have problems in writing SOP. So we have come out with a model SOP or a guideline SOP. Please note that this is a guideline SOP. This is not your SOP. You have to tailor make your own SOP. You don't only cut, copy, paste and say, this is my SOP. Please don't do that. If you want the best benefits out of this certification, all these SOPs, everything has to be your internal document and nothing cut, copy, paste. Don't borrow from your friend some documents and say, this is my SOP. Finally, you are the sufferer. The SOP for destruction of unused portion of specimen, very important. Even ICMR is putting a lot of stress on this. There are a lot of cultural issues. So make sure that the 7th SOP is important and is definitely, please be particular in writing SOPs for specimen storage and for destruction of unused portion. There are 7 formats in the standard. One is a letter to FEQH, self-appraisal form, IVF center profile. We ask basic information about the OT size, the various physical dimensions, the ownership details, the date when it was established, the number of patients normally you have so far dealt, annual patient load, just as some basic data that we see. Same thing happens about the quality policy. Quality policy, again, is an indicative policy. Please write your own policy. This is, if you don't have, you can take a guideline as this policy and develop your own quality policy. Because finally, a customer or your patients are going to read your quality policy. Your staffs are going to be guided by quality policy. Patient charter, as you would have seen in healthcare, a lot of cases where it's mandatory that the patient's charter has to be published. We have given you a draft charter, which also includes the responsibilities, because any rights always comes with responsibilities. So what are the patient's rights and responsibilities is documented in charter. Make sure your staff is aware. Make sure all of you work on protecting your patient's rights and responsibilities. Purchase verification format, you buy a lot of things which are temperature sensitive, environmental sensitive. You need to check them. You need to document that checking. So how to document your purchase verification is also the format we have given. You can start using that. Induction program. Now, many doctors have arguments on this, saying that I have hired, or the person who has joined me is very senior person. So why does he need to be inducted? So I say, fine. He may be senior, but he may be working in an organization which has different equipment than you, different infrastructure, different patient load, different the cultural issues. So how does he get oriented to your organization? See, finally, any organization, there's something called as organization culture. And to building in organizational culture, everybody has to look at the same direction. And that's the reason even the best of employee, most experienced employee also needs to undergo the induction program. Now, what we can help you or what we will be doing with you, word helping is not a proper one because it's a partnership. In partnership, we are together. There's no question of helping each other. So through webinar or many other methods, we'll explain how to implement the standard, what exactly is to be done. We are coming out of, we have already got some videos wherein we have shot at the places where certain things were implemented. So we can share those videos as well. And we'll probably very soon have a YouTube channel for this particular purpose. All the formats, forms, annexures, people had difficulties in past. So now we have come out with short videos to assist filling. Now those videos help immensely in filling. So those difficulties probably are resolved. We would look at your feedback and hope this problem stands closed. one-to-one virtual sessions. It may not be possible for us to visit you physically anymore, at least for the time being, and certainly till in 2020, no. But we are always close to you. We are always available on various digital platforms. I think you can seek appointment, and then we can interact on whatever difficulties that you have. Please remember, we are always with you. We are always ready to assist you. Coming to audit, as I said, that immediate future will not be visiting you. So we'll have a virtual audit. And we have conducted some audits and found that they're as effective as the physical audits. There will be a 3-stage audit. The first stage will be we'll ask you to submit documents, and we'll review those documents and come out with non-conformities or queries on those documents. The second stage will be a virtual tour of your organization. Maybe that can be on a WhatsApp or a Duo video. There are many other platforms available. And the third stage, maybe on the same day, can be a top management and staff interview. This can be through Skype, Namaste, or Zoom platform. Of course, the various platforms our office will discuss with you prior, so that the auditors need to be aware about which tool to use while auditing your organization. So we will take a form from you and take your consents for such audits. So when those consents are done, I think the stage 2 and 3 can be done on the same day. Stage 1 can be done probably a week before, because after the stage 1 is cleared, only then you move to stage 2 and stage 3. There are advantages of this virtual audit. It meets demand of current situation. That's what, of course, social distancing means, so you can't be physically visiting. It's very time saving, because when we come to you, we know that you need to be with us. So from the time that we land in your city till we leave your city, someone of you has to be with us. Normally that's a hospitality we have experienced. So all that time is no more required. If you do 1 hour audit or 2 hour audit, that's all the time we need of yours. Quick response time also, because when you have to visit, or we have to visit your city, morning flight to evening flight. The morning flights normally take off at 6. So auditors need to get up at 3 and catch the flight. By the time they reach back, it's 12. So no auditor can take more than 3 or 4 audits a month. This will go away. So our response time will be much faster. One auditor can take even 5, 6, 7 audits also in a month comfortably. Cost effective, no airline tickets, no hotel bookings, no taxi, nothing, no lunch, nothing. So definitely it's cost effective. So it's a win-win situation for both of us. Of course, we are looking at the costing of the audit, and we'll discuss soon with Isar. Now, this is the portion of, we have completed up to the implementation of the standard and its principles. I spent about 5 minutes of yours on kind of implementation of, even if you don't want to go in for ASIC, at least the practices, the good practices that you should adopt, or which will help you in improving your IVF clinic or a facility. At least those I'll kind of tell you about as a concept at least. UPS, very important for your cases, because you need power backup 24/7. So it's very clear from the slide that number the UPS, write the KBA rating, write the date when it was serviced, and when is the next due date. Water tanks, a lot of diseases, waterborne diseases, so important to know. which water is for drinking, which water is for gardening, which water is for toilet. So all the water tanks that you have, number them, write the purpose of those water that will be used, write the capacity of the water tank, clean date, next due date, important. Biomedical waste, it's a legal requirement. Make sure that the containers or the bins that you use for biomedical waste storing, they have a biohazard symbol on them, because in absence of that, people may use them as a bucket or may use for some other thing. So to avoid that disaster, ensure that there is a biohazard symbol on all the bins which carry the biomedical waste, and also biohazard symbol has to be there. Little stick injury, very serious matter if it happens. And majority of the places we have seen, people are not aware about the protocol post little stick injury. Please go on NACO guidelines. Please write it down. Please orient yourself. It's worth it. You may save a life. Repair book as a concept, you should have it, because not that everything works 24/7 in the organization. Something goes faulty, something goes broken, something gets this thing. So we need to record it. Now, repair book, many times I have seen complaint 1, complaint 2, complaint 3, complaint. Don't write like this. This is, if your repair book, this is the date, write the complaint here, write the date when it was resolved, write how it was resolved. If you're using a notebook, don't put it immediately the next complaint. One here, one here. Good enough. If you're using a long book, at the most 3 per page. Don't try and economize these notebooks. They're good learning books. Mind you, they're very helpful when you conduct your monthly meetings. Another very important thing, I think if Dr. Padgaonkar is listening, he has used it very effectively. You get Sunmica tapes or masking tapes in the market, 2 inch and 1 inch wide. Very useful. You can use them. See, the advantage of Sunmica tape is that when you put it and when you remove it, there is no gum residual on the surface. They come out very clean. And you can use a lot of data on this, like when was the AMC done, when is the servicing done, when is the next servicing due, when was the filter changed, when was the filter cleaned. A lot of information. You can use it on the item itself rather than keeping it somewhere. So these stickers, activity stickers, are very, very useful. And we are in the video, we have explained how to use this. You should conduct periodical staff meetings. A lot of irritating things happen in our organization, but people do not know where to complain or what to do. Some place recently, I went to a toilet, saw a tap leaking. So Maushi was standing outside. I asked her, Maushi, tap leak हो रहा है, आपने कुछ किया, क्या किया? नहीं, हमने बोला था लेकिन कुछ हुआ नहीं है. मैं बोला कितना दिन से है? वो क्या 1 महीने के ऊपर हो गया. Now these kind of things are not acceptable in the organization. You need to ensure that everybody is empowered to make a complaint, to write a repair book, or to draw attention of the administrator or someone, but there cannot be leaky things, not working things around. They're absolutely unacceptable. So a monthly meeting is the best methodology to solve this issue. And the last but not the least is monthly facility round. You should document here all the activities that you need to check once in a month, the name of the person who is responsible, and then you can docket Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June onwards. And here you can write who did it and was there any problem and the date in which it was done. So when this is this is maintained well, the facility around, believe me, your organization will never have issues. I think I've come to an end of the presentation. And this is the logo that you get if you are certified, which you can use, prestigious logo, well accepted by patients. And till your certificate is active, you can use this logo on your stationery, on all the stationery that you have, including the reports. And the patients believe this logo. So thank you for patiently listening to this.
Thank you, Mr. Garge.
Yeah, thanks.
Dr. Shreyas and Dr. Gadgil, you can start your videos, please.
Yeah, okay. We already have some questions which our viewers are sending in. So I will take a few of these questions and address them. We have a question coming from Dr. Sudhir Marathe from Pune. He is asking, what are the minimum requirements for medical instruments for this audit? For this purpose of accreditation, are there any minimum requirements for medical equipment?
Medical
Equipment.
Medical equipment.
See, medical equipment, of course, we have specified in the OT. We have specified in the standard what are the minimum requirements in the OT. Balance is up to depends on your scope of supply, scope of the services that you offer. But OT, definitely there are minimum requirements specified, both for infrastructure as well as for the medicines. And standard is an open document. It's available freely on the website of Clinic 21st. We can also share with ISAR and let people view it. It's open document. We don't want to be secretive about this document.
Another question is about the fees from Dr. Radhika from Akola. Do we have a limitation of basic and maximum fees charged while applying? I think I said in my presentation, the fees are same. It's a one fee, the same fees for everybody. It doesn't depend on how big or small is your clinic. And you will get to know about these fees when you inquire with the ISAR office. They will let you know the fees. Third question is from Dr. Swara in Telangana. Will COVID-19 have some more modification accreditation process? If yes, then what penalties if rules are not adhered? We just said about COVID as a virtual audit is kind of will be a norm after COVID for most situations. And if I understand correctly, you're asking about penalties. I don't understand what penalties you want to know. Mr. Gadge, you have any idea what this is?
No, penalties means what happened earlier when there were physical audits. Now, suppose there is an audit tomorrow, the ticket is booked, everything is done. And last minute you tell me, no, for some reason, please don't have the audit tomorrow. Then there were charges which the organization had to bear because a lot of, especially the auditor is already booked for the day. Now that day he cannot work for anything else. So there were some charges which were called as cancellation charges. But now with the virtual audit, I think that question may not come, but if our experience is that every now and then if there are postponements, then maybe we'll look at it. But today, as of today, for virtual audits, I don't think we will insist for penalties or cancellation charges. But I don't commit at this minute. It depends on the experience that we will have. See, finally, although we are a charitable organization, is a NGO, we still need money to run it.
Another question is from Rita Kumari. What quality control system are your recommendations? So I think I think what she's trying to ask is, do you recommend a specific way of maintaining your equipment or so? That's what I feel is the question. So I don't think we are prescribing a particular organization or we are asking you to get it done by some specific person. But the norms will be laid down of how often you need to service and calibrate your equipment, and you need to adhere to that and get a certification from the agency, whosoever is going to do the job for you. Is that right, Mr. Gargi?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
And shall I add, Inkar?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, quality means exactly, most of you are implementing quality norms. It's not nothing different from what we are asking. So what need to you to do is document it. The basic thing is write what you do what you write. So I don't think that will be a very big issue.
So another question is from Dr. Tushar Mishra from Gandhinagar. What health checks are recommended? And another similar question somebody else has asked later on is, will the healthcare personnel be included for a new COVID test in future?
Say, currently there are guidelines about communicable diseases for health checkup. I'm going by NABH guidelines, because if you have to consider some guidelines, some reference point we need to look at. And the recommendation is communicable diseases, which is hepatitis B and TB in India currently. But if there are any epidemics, obviously there are local guidelines which are published from time to time, and that abiding has to be done. But post-COVID, I'm sure some guidelines will come with time. I think that's the reason why I said that wait for a while and then we'll have this more clarity. But the health checkup, see, the entire scenario is going to change with time to come, at least till the time that either the vaccine or the medication is found out. Till that point, everybody is going to doubt each other as a potential positive. And the precautions to be taken are big enough. So I was just reading a dentistry, the new way of dentistry. I mean, there are documents available, videos available now. Dentistry should be at least 3 times more expensive post-COVID. So anybody's guess.
All right. Now there is a question. We say that will the auditors be looking at your results of your cases and outcomes when they come to your labs?
No, no way. No way. That's a matter of your own this thing. Please, there is no yardstick to measure success or failure. It's the process we are looking at and not the outcome.
Then there is a question from 2 different people, which is asking about the qualification and degrees and for the people who are working in the IVF clinic. Is there any guideline or, whether are you going to define about the qualification of the lab director or so? What are we following about the qualification of the people involved in the process?
ICMR guidelines.
So ICMR has a clear-cut guideline about the qualification of each of the people working in the lab, starting from the lab director, the embryologist, the counselor, so on and so forth. So we are following the same guidelines for our accreditation.
So none of us are bigger than ICMR. So we have to abide by ICMR guidelines.
Dr. Sandeep from Mumbai, he is asking, what about the authorization and genuinity of document in virtual inspection? How are you going to...
Come again?
He's asking about how are you going to check the genuinity of the document submitted if we are going to do the virtual audit?
See, the document submitted initially, the council certificates are checked on the council's website by our office. So that is how it is checked. Now, if you submit a document which says that your nursing home registration is this, we accept on a face value, and we take an undertaking initially that all the documents submitted are genuine and not doctored. So if you have doctored something, even in today's day, doctoring is so, it's impossible to detect it. So we go by the documents submitted and considered to be genuine, except the council registrations are definitely verified through the website of the councils. And the virtual audits will be video recorded with the, that's what I'm saying. There will be a consent taken. All the virtual, today we have the physical audits reports for right from day one onwards till today. So similarly, all the virtual audits will be video recorded and the record available with us.
Okay. Dr. Paras from Porbandar. Can you tell me the procedure or records to be maintained and submitted post-registration? Dr. Paras, once you register, you will be given the standard, and then there is a list of documents that you need to maintain, which Mr. Gadgil touched upon in his talk. Whatever doubts you have, you will be offered a training session with FEQH team on the web, and all your doubts will be solved in that interaction. And whatever doubts, as he said, they are available all the time to you. After you enroll, you will be guided through the process of creating your documents and maintaining them. Am I correct, Mr. Gadgil?
Yes.
Correct.
There is a question about clinics who are due for audit in the month of March. How are we going to manage them now? When these audits will be done?
We are planning in May itself.
Okay.
I think by 10th May, the new standard should be out. Because as I said, there are no changes in the standard. The changes are only with reference to the auditing techniques.
Right.
And couple of small requirements here and there, which were misprint were corrected and things like this. And a document flow, because we may not be now sending anything on physical basis. We have our website, which is already made. Right. So once when somebody registers, his mobile number will be activated as a login ID and a password. And all the documents will be available, including the videos. Right. So he can access it till probably 3 months the window is open, or 1 month. I'm not too sure. But either 1 month the window should be open for that person. And in case if for some reason, valid reason, if they don't finish within 1 month, they can always ask for extension, and we don't charge for extension. So
there is a question for all the audits that we have conducted till now. What are your observations of the lapses, or what we call non-conformities, most commonly found non-conformities found in these audits? Mr. Datar, can you enlighten us?
Dr. Datar would probably be best person to answer this.
See, basically, when we give an audit report, we start with what are the positive points. That's very important. So I start with that high motivation I have seen. I have seen excellent cooperation from all the team members and very positive approach. Having said that, let me explain what is a non-conformity for those who have not registered. A non-conformity means something is written in the standard, but which is not being implemented. Does that mean that you don't get the certificate? No. We give you the non-conformity, and you have to close this non-conformity within a reasonable period of time. So there are many non-conformity we have observed, but I'll give only a top 10. The most important is the cryo-PP. When you are handling liquid nitrogen, many people are not taking care. And you can know that a cold burn is very severe injury. Then there is a requirement of the standard procedure to shift embryos is not documented. Suppose there is a fire. This is a customer property, and you must have a procedure to shift it to a safer place. So that needs to be documented. Another thing is a confusion about the HEPA filter validation. What documents are required? We are addressing this issue in the revision standard. Air sample testing is not done. That is important. Autoclave register is not maintained. Now, autoclave register is, these are all medical legal documents. Temperature, humidity log is not maintained. That is also a medical legal document. There is a lot of confusion on what calibration we should have. So that also we are addressing it. Swab testing, we need to do the swab testing of the IVF lab as well as the IVF OT. Sometimes anesthesia record is not maintained. Now this is very important. Your surgery may be minor or major. Anesthesia is always major. So please maintain a record. Preoperative checklist is a standard document now that should be maintained. And you're maintaining a lot of cold chain. So refrigeration temperature log is not maintained. So these are few top 10 conformities. These are not difficult. These are very solvable conformities, not very difficult to address those issues. Thank you. The Padgakar audio is not clear.
Yeah, there are two questions which are asking about the writing of and the minimum SOPs that we should have. I think Mr. Gadgir in his talk just addressed this issue. We have bare minimum, I think he had a list of 7 SOPs, and we are planning to create a sample SOPs which you will need to modify according to your workflow. Are we going to do that in the near future, Mr. Gadgir?
Mr. Gadgil, you're on mute, sir.
I think my 10th is my target date to complete everything.
Okay.
So latest by 10th, everything will be rolled out and handed over to ISAR or to whatever applicants will be communicating with them. And between 25th and 30th, we should finish all the pending orders, pending audits, because I know that 3 months, there is a lot of, nothing has happened in last 3 months.
Right.
So we'll catch up with that.
Right. Okay, Hitesh, are we coming to the end of this session? 1 hour?
Yes, almost.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll take this opportunity to thank everybody involved in this webinar. And I thank all the participants who are logged in today. In this current situation, take care, be safe. And I will definitely urge all of you to enroll in this program and make this thing widespread all across the country. And we are there to help you, to take you through the process of accreditation. And we'll make sure that all of us will deliver great quality care to our patients. Thank you. Take care. Thank you, Mr. Gadgir. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much, Doctor, giving us opportunity. Thanks, Doc Mode.
Thank you, Doc Mode.
Thank you very much. See you.